Hey there, this is Alan.
And Bree, and we are the Hunter and the Hippie podcast.
And in today's episode, we actually dive into the fun question of would you rather have money or fame? And then that leads to further conversations as we dig deeper into those two things about happiness.
And happierness.
And happierness. We are coining this word. It's going to end up being a real word in the dictionary.
Hey, lots of people make up words. So
yeah, I mean they put bling bling in the dictionary.
No.
So, yes, they did.
Okay.
I remember when they did it.
Oh boy.
So now it is happierness, coined on February 16th at like 9:30. But yeah, we dive into happiness and happierness. And then we wrap up talking a bit about suffering and the attachment to suffering. And yeah, hope you enjoy the show. And please feel free to provide some feedback or questions if you have them.
Yeah, and as always, we want to thank everyone who supports us by listening, and also Brianna Cote Photography.com for doing our cover photos and a lot of our marketing photos, as well as Allison Band, and that's ALLYSON Band. You can find them on Spotify and Apple Music for our intro and outro, and always links in our episode description for both of our Instagram handles and ways to contact us. So enjoy the show. We'll see you next time.
Hey, we're here, episode 31.
Whoa.
Can't believe it.
Yeah.
So when do we get to Joe Rogan status?
Oh, we are already there. Episode 1093.
Yeah, right, that's when you've made it.
Yeah.
Dude, it's crazy. He's at, I think it's like 1800 or something like that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, he's been doing it since
forever.
2009, I think, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fucking 1800 episodes.
Early adapter. What can we be early adapters of?
Right.
I'm not cool enough to be an early adapter of anything.
It's all right. I don't want Joe Rogan status yet.
I don't ever think I want it. Fame or money? What you know, that isn't that the question they always do, is like, what would you take, fame or money?
Oh, wow. Fame or money. If you have fame, don't you get money too?
Not necessarily.
Yeah, it's
about all like professional athletes or like movie stars who just like blow everything.
Yeah. I don't know, fame or money. I can't lie. I love being recognized. So I love money too, though. But
yeah,
I think that's I think that if I was famous, I'd have the money too, and wouldn't blow it all like a dumbass.
Yeah,
like MC Hammer or these other folks that. Did you listen to the Joe Rogan episode with Jewel?
I've listened to half of it.
Oh my god, you need to finish it.
Okay.
It's insane. Like talking about fame and money. She's brilliant. First off, her background I had no clue about, and then I'm gonna spoiler alert it. But her mother stole $100 million from her.
Yeah.
And that's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
She had both. She had fame and money.
Yeah.
And her mother wanted the fame. And that's what happened, is the mother wanted the fame and thought that by using all the money she'd get her fame.
Oh.
And that didn't work. I mean, she got her fame.
Well, she didn't get enough fame because I never heard of it.
Right. But yeah, wild. Fame or money? I don't know. What would you choose? The money?
I get torn between one, like fame would be to have a platform to share like all of the kind of spiritual consciousness, all these love, which
Yeah.
I think like that is the draw towards fame. Um, but I don't want what comes with fame.
Mm-hmm.
So that is tricky. Money, I mean, I don't. If I wanted money, I'd probably already be pursuing that
Yeah.
path.
Well, you did
But
pursue that path,
yeah,
and you realized that you didn't want that.
yeah. And so I guess the funny thing with money is I'm like, oh, I like if it meant I could have like a full on farm, like there's little pieces of the
Mm-hmm.
money. I would want the money so I could get like 100 acres of land, but I
Right.
don't want money to the degree of like I need to have. It's like someone was telling me Big Sky in Montana, the ski
Mm-hmm.
resort,
Mm-hmm.
just opened like a new lodge, and apparently like the cheapest room is like $1,500 a night,
That's insane.
up to like
That's insane.
like up to like 15,000, maybe even more a night, and
Yeah.
I said to my friend, I'm like, even if I had that kind of money that I could spend $15,000 a night at a hotel, like I just don't think I would.
Mm-hmm.
I just like feel like there's so many other things I would put that money towards, whether it's even just like legacy, like being able to like hand that down to generations below me.
Yeah.
Um,
It's funny because if I had that, I would totally spend it.
yeah,
Me and my friend, we've talked about this before, is I consider myself backcountry bougie.
yeah,
Like I can go live in the wilderness,
hmm,
with a water filter on my back, right? Like
yeah,
with a tent and a sleeping bag and have no problem.
yeah,
But like when I'm when I show up at the airport, I want, right? I want front of the line. I want first class,
yeah,
right? I want the nice stuff, right?
yeah,
But like I can do both,
mm,
right? That's the difference. I don't just want, right, like the $15,000 a night room. That'd be fun. I don't have that kind of money, but I also think, right, money's a tool,
mm-hmm,
and I had this epiphany the other day. So I've set this goal, this quote goal, this right. I don't know if it's a goal or right. I've said I'm going to be on the Joe Rogan podcast.
okay,
Like I don't know what I consider, if it's a goal or what, because like there's not a date in mind,
yeah,
but I've just like put it out there, like. And it's funny, we've talked about this before we were recording. Like I just put it out there and I let it go,
yeah,
and I'm just gonna let the universe take it, and whenever it comes back to me, it comes back to me.
mm-hmm,
And like, yeah, I'm gonna be on the Joe Rogan podcast, um, and I realized, right, a lot of people say things like, "Oh, well, if I had the money, then I would do this."
yeah,
Or if I was on Joe Rogan, then I would have the followers, the business, right? Like
mm-hmm,
but what I realized is that you have to have those things before you do the Joe Rogan podcast.
mm,
You have to have those things before you get the money,
mm,
right? So the Joe Rogan podcast, the money, it's just a tool. It's a magnifier. It just makes you more of who you already are.
mm,
And I think that, so you disagree. I can't wait to hear this. But like
yeah,
I think that, like for me, if right, like my vision is to just create this village of love and happiness, and just have this impact on the world, and I can do that without all the money in the world,
mm-hmm,
right? I don't need to win like people say, like, what would you do if you win the lottery, right? uh, for me, I don't have to have all the money in the world to do that. I can do that now, and as I get more money, that's going to magnify that,
mm-hmm,
right? So I have to become who I want to be, and then just allow the money to magnify that,
mm-hmm,
if that makes sense. And then, right, like you get on Joe Rogan, and that you already have that. You already like the people on Joe Rogan deserve to be on Joe Rogan already.
Mm.
I don't know if that makes sense, but you disagree at what part? Let's hear this.
I don't know. And I kind of thought about it, and maybe I don't. But with money, I feel like so many people, same thing with things, right? Is the more that people acquire, the more they want, which can at times affect the way that they potentially approach life. However, maybe for people who are more in touch or mindful or aware, maybe that doesn't shift them. I don't know.
I think I see what you're getting at. I think the lotto is like the big one, right? Like people say, like if you won the lotto, oh, I'd help the homeless. Well, are you helping the homeless now?
Yeah.
No. Okay. Then you're not going to help the homeless when you win the lotto.
Okay.
Right? Like that's the way I see it.
Yeah.
Right? Like especially when you get into a huge lump of money. Right? Like that. Like I think when you work for that money over a period of time, right, you change who you have to become to earn that money. Right? So I think that as you acquire that money, it's a magnifier. It's just making you more of who you are. Right. So for me, it's just going to make me more of, trying to, right. If I wanted to just help the homeless, I'm going to help the homeless now. And as I acquire more, I'm going to continue helping the homeless at a higher level. Where someone who's like, oh, I'd help the homeless, and they don't do any of that now. And what they do now is they binge drink on the weekends and, go to Vegas. Then if they win the lottery, I can almost guarantee what they're going to do. Right? They're going to binge drink throughout the week and go to Vegas.
Yeah. I guess it's just I look at when I made more money, I was less of who I was.
Because you lost who you were, because the way you went about getting the money.
Yeah, but I really that period of my life was, I enjoyed what I was doing. Just,
To a degree.
That's what sent me on that path in the first place. Right. And I built up from nothing. Like I built up from the front desk into managing an entire region.
But why aren't you doing it now?
Because it turned into something that I didn't agree with.
Yeah.
That wasn't in alignment.
Yeah.
And so yes, I did lose a part of me in the sense that I saw again money, title as success, and then realized that's not success.
Right.
For me.
What do you want out of life right now?
Just peace and contentment and really to focus on the essentials, like the core of life with community and health, and being able to share that with others.
So now that you have that and you know that, you're not going to do something to acquire money that puts you off of that.
Yeah.
You're not going to go create missiles.
Yeah.
Right? You're right, because that's against what your vision for life is. Right? Whereas in your career, in your corporate career, maybe I can't put words or thoughts in your mouth, but maybe you lost that vision, right? And maybe you had a piece of that vision, but you're easily moldable, right? Like living the New York City life, right? Going out to the bars, drinking $15 cocktails, and oh yeah, let's just get more and more money, and you lose track of that thing that you want to do and creating this awesome, healthy world. But then you realized it. You said, oh, this is definitely the wrong path.
Well, and it's like what got me into each of like what got me into that career was the transformation of people that were impacted by the company I worked for.
Yeah.
And that's when I left, I started to see what are the, like when I worked at the cancer hospital, I didn't want to be in healthcare management, but what kept me there was this underlying piece of changing people's lives. And I struggled with, as I started at the front desk at the cancer hospital, then managed a clinic, and then went into clinical trials research. And I actually always felt like I wanted to do more for them. Like what I was a consistent face at a time that there was no consistency, where there was so much unknown, especially with the medical oncology department that I worked for. And then when I went and worked at Soul Cycle and helped them grow and expand, it was the same thing. Like I believed in their message of, and I got to experience how clients' lives were changed from this workout that was more than a workout. And so it's was interesting because those underlying pieces were there, but then there were external factors that weren't me that really probably changed my other priorities, I guess you would say. I don't know how to phrase it. Just, yeah, you start to be in a mode of like keeping up with the Joneses. And I see it. I mean, like I hear it with my friends. It's like I have some friends who are 10 plus years older, like have had really financially successful careers. I mean, on top of the other success, and they have the ability to have, a second home and like all these other things. And then I see, one of my friends shares, like, I realize we're trying to keep up with them and we're like in a different stage of life.
Yes.
But because they started making a little more money, they start to like go into that mode of keeping up with them. And so that's where I like, and I know that's not that like, I don't know. It's, I think money and power and fame, like all of that, it's really easy to be influenced and changed by it. It's probably far harder to stay true to who you are as you acquire those, I don't even know if you'd say pieces, acquire those
tools.
Yeah.
Listen to the Jewel episode.
Yeah.
Because it's like the money clearly like didn't change her. Like it probably did, right? But when you hear like who she is, what she is, the deals that she made with the record labels, it was like an insurance policy to keep her who she was.
Okay.
And so what she talks about is a lot of musicians, artists, they create a deal for a front, like hey, we're going to give you $10 million, but you need to put out 5 albums.
Yeah.
And she didn't do that. She did a back end deal.
Yeah.
Where it was like, no, I don't want $10 million now.
Yeah.
You can keep your $10 million. But what I want is a way higher percentage of the record sales. So you keep your $10 million. And what a lot of people do is they take the $10 million up front because now I made it. But then they're locked into, oh shit, now I have to create an album. Right now there's this pressure. And with her, she was never forced to create an album. And it never had to have a certain sound. And she created the music that she wanted to create.
Yeah. And she got a percentage. So if it does really well, she's more like, she has no cap on what she can make versus a flat rate.
Absolutely. And to this day, she says this. I can't verify, but she says to this day, it is the largest back end deal ever made in music history.
Yeah.
And it was because she didn't take any money up front. And even Joe Rogan was like, wait, hold on. They wanted to offer, I forget the amount. They wanted to give you, millions of dollars up front, and you as a 20 something year old said no, right? Like how
Yeah.
tempting, right? Like what 20 something year old is looking at, a check for tens of millions of dollars and says no
Mm-hmm.
to it.
Yeah.
Right? That's playing the long game. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Right? That's not losing sight of your vision and what you want in life. And because yeah, it absolutely, right, it's enticing
Mm-hmm.
to be like, oh well, this is easy.
Mm-hmm.
I can have $10 million right now.
Yeah.
Or maybe, right, like you don't even know, like maybe I'll have $100 million in the future.
Mm-hmm.
That's if this does well. So
Yeah.
it's, yeah, I see what you're saying, right? I see what you're saying, that it can definitely derail and put you on a path that maybe you don't want to be on.
Yeah. And I think that's mainly just when we're it is, yeah, I guess you're right. It's like when you lost yourself or you're just disconnected,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is not uncommon. Like I think that's really important to realize is that are so um we are so easily influenced by external factors or
Mm-hmm.
seeking our value, love from the external.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because it is subconscious patterns that are created, like we've talked about this, at a very young age, right? That
Mm-hmm.
then play out in one way or another. And so it's noticing, I guess, just being connected to those um, where you're seeking outside.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
what you even said is like, if when I this,
Mm-hmm.
then I'll this.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing, is you have to reverse it,
Mm-hmm.
right? Whatever the if is, right? It's if I had the money, I would help homeless people.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
it's you need to help homeless people, and then you'll get the money.
Yvon Chouinard from Black Diamond
Mm-hmm.
Patagonia. There's a movie with him and Doug Tompkins, who is
Mm-hmm.
the North Face um, a guy who started North
Founder,
Face.
yeah, founder.
Yeah, founder. He says if you're an what is it? If you're a jerk before you go up Everest, you're gonna be one
Right,
after.
right.
So
And it's the same with money, right? Like
yeah,
if you're an asshole before you have money, you're
that
gonna
just gets
be
magnified.
you're right. You're just gonna be a bigger
Yeah.
asshole. Right?
Mm-hmm.
If you treat people like shit before you have money, now you have money and power and fame, and now you're just gonna treat people more like shit.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if I said this on last episode. I might have. I forget now. Everything blurs together. Uh, I was talking with a friend about like standing up for things that you believe in,
Mm-hmm.
and standing up for something that you believe in, if it's against, if it's against, like a lot, the majority, doesn't make you an asshole,
Yeah.
right? Being an asshole makes you an asshole.
Yeah.
Right. I went into the barbershop the other day to get my beard trimmed, and everyone probably knows this already, but like I don't wear a mask, and there's very few times I'll actually select to put one on, and I walk into the barbershop, and it wasn't my turn yet, so I had to sit down, and the guy was like, "Hey, I need you to put on a mask," and I was like, "No." I was like, "I'll go wait outside if you want me to,
Yeah.
and you can come get me." And he was like, "Yeah, yeah, do that." And then after, right, right, he calls me in, and I go and sit down, and he's like trimming me up, and he's like, "Hey, I really appreciate you not being a dick and about the mask thing. And
Yeah.
I was like, I'm not a dick,
Yeah.
right? Like, I was like, I can stand up and for what I believe in, and not be an asshole, right?
Yeah.
And there's a solution, right? I went and waited outside.
Yeah.
You can't trim my beard with a mask on,
Yeah.
right? So I'm not going to wear a mask when you're. Right? Why am I going to put one on while I'm sitting here waiting?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think that a lot of these tools, right? And people say money can't buy happiness, and I call bullshit on that too, right? It's not that.
No, but that's going against what you said.
No,
It's like
no.
happiness gets magnified by money.
Right. So that's the key, is that if you have, right, happy is internal. I heard this the other day, and I don't know, I forget where I heard it, so I can't give credit, but happy is you, right? Happy is in here. Happier is out there, right? So you have to, so you have to be happy within you, right? You have to find your happy internally, right? You have to know, right, the things that you do, right, how you live your life, how you sleep at night, how you look at yourself in the mirror, right? That's happy. And then money is the external, right? Relationships are the external, right? All these things that you do, those things are just going to make you happier, right? So money can't make you happy, right? If you're miserable, right, like exactly what we're saying, if you're miserable and you get a ton of money, you're not going to be happy.
Yeah.
Right? You're going to be miserable with a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, but then money can't buy happiness.
But it can make you happier. It can magnify. So
I think I don't know. I can't agree to disagree on that one.
Because here's the thing, like,
it shouldn't be magnified by something external. It should be magnified by self.
But well, if you're happy, what you can't be, right? Like, you get happier from outside.
No, I almost think the more that you find that peace and contentment, the more and the more you remove the outside impact on that is actually where it magnifies. Like, I noticed that, like, the more that I am less reliant on the external for increasing my peace or, again, joy or any of like that, the more I actually feel that joy cultivated from within. It becomes stronger and stronger, and these just indescribable moments of bliss have come from not being, like, allowing, right, external to come in, but not being so controlled by it.
I see what you're saying.
But that's just me. Hey, I'm not, again, like, agree to disagree, but I find the further I get the further I'm attached to the external, the more joy is cultivated, and it's all from within.
Yes, I agree with that. But then now, once you've found that, and then if you got a bunch of money, you're like, oh, what can I do to use this in my happiness? Right?
Yeah, but I don't think it would make me happier.
Okay, interesting.
Would it allow me to maybe have 5 garden towers instead of, like, one?
It'd allow you to have your 100 acres of land.
Yeah, but that's not going to make, if I'm only going to be happier by having more land, that's not, that then says that land gets taken away, my happiness diminishes.
No, because you're still happy.
But you're saying the level of happiness is directly correlated. Like, so I'm happier because I have 100 acres of land. That means I'm at, say, a scale of 1 to 10. I'm at without land, I'm at a 5. And then I get land and I'm at a scale of 8 happiness level. And now that land gets taken away. And I'm probably going to actually drop down, if it was determined, if my happiness increased by 3 points with land, I'm actually probably going to drop down to a 3 because now I don't have what I did, right? And so it's I can't.
So yes and no, because yeah, I see what you're saying. I don't disagree with all of it. I disagree with some of it. The thing on your scale is that if you're at a 1, you're still happy.
Yeah.
That's the key, is that you could lose it all and just go down to a 1.
Yeah, but I could also lose it all and still be at an 8 when it's coming from within.
Sure.
That's the whole point, is like,
yeah.
If I can lose it all and still have like the same amount of joy as when I have, that's my ideal.
So I'm going to say something, and it might validate your point even more, but we'll see. Right, like my thought is like, I was doing some jujitsu at one of my buddy's gyms, and like I tweaked my knee, and I didn't injure it. Like I definitely felt like, oh, that isn't good.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and I need to watch that. But then I went down the path of, oh, what if I blew out my ACL? Right, which is totally possible in jiu-jitsu. Like, what if I blew out my ACL? And then I couldn't do jiu-jitsu for 6 months or a year, or maybe a lifetime. Would I still be happy? And my thought was absolutely. Like, jiu-jitsu just makes me happier.
Yeah.
Right. So if I lose jiu-jitsu, then it's like, oh, okay, I'll do something else. Like, because I'm happy. Does that like yeah? So this external factor does make me happier, but if I lose it, I'm still going to be happy.
Yeah. Are you still going to be happier?
I'm just going to be happy. I'm still on the scale. That's the difference, right? Like the 1 to 10 scale, I'm still on the scale.
Yeah, but are you less happy without jiu-jitsu? That's the question, because you're saying happier with the external. So now the external gets taken from you. Are you less happy without jiu-jitsu? Or are you the same happy? So that's on the scale. Did you regress back to your original happy level? Or are you like able to keep the same level of happiness that you did with jiu-jitsu without it?
I don't know.
That's why I had to put like numbers, because it's like conceptually, like it's really hard to be like happier, because you're like, because that's what I'm like. Yeah, you're happy, but you're always happy, right? But you're happier with jiu-jitsu, and so when jiu-jitsu gets taken away, are you still happier?
But hold on, here,
are you just happy?
Here, I'll throw in another wrench there.
Happiest.
If I were to do jiu-jitsu for 8 hours straight every day, I wouldn't be happy. I'd probably be quite miserable.
You never know.
You don't, right? But like, I probably would be.
Yeah.
Right. So the fact that I can go to jiu-jitsu and then leave jiu-jitsu and not have to do jiu-jitsu, like if it was a requirement, like, nope, 8 hours a day, all day, you have to, like, I'd be walking around, I'd be all disfigured and shit. So
actually, I really want to read this book, and gosh, it's been on my radar for so long, and I don't know how I haven't read it, and I don't even know the name of it, but it's Jerry Lopez, is a professional surfer, old time guy. And his book was he moved to like Oregon or something, or Washington. He moved somewhere where he stopped surfing. And it was all about that, like, and I haven't read it, so, and I haven't thought about it in a while until this conversation, but it's all about like putting our happiness, right? Like having our happiness determined by these external things. And so if there were no waves to surf, could you still find that same amount of joy? And I think that's kind of what you're saying, is like, you experience this joy from jiu-jitsu, but if it's taken away, it's not robbing you of your joy.
Right.
and I think you would even say that it's not even robbing you of the level of joy that you can experience, right? Because, well, one, because that foundation you're talking about, but also is when you can find that in the things you do, you can find that in potentially anything that you do.
Yeah, right, absolutely. Because happy is here. Because I'm always happy. Or I'm always joyful.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to hear a monk's perspective on this.
It's fast. This last weekend, I was at a dinner and a handful of people I didn't know. And I was talking to this gentleman about yoga. He's like, oh, I'm super. He follows Sadhguru and does a lot of his breath works and yoga. And we were talking about, oh, shoot, what just happened?
Brain fart. Gentleman that you met.
What did you say before I went into that? That prompted me.
A monk.
Oh, okay.
It'd be interesting to have a monk's perspective.
Yeah. So we went, what I was sharing him about the Amrit Institute and why I've been drawn so much to the lineage and how each guru has adapted it for the current times. And so Guru Dev was a disciple of Swami Kripalu, and he evolved it to be more relevant from Kripalu. And now Kamini is Guru Dev's daughter, and she's adding another element or evolving it to be relevant to the current times as well. And that, what I've appreciated is like the human component to it, because I'm like, I actually personally would do a really great job at just being in a mountain monastery. Like I could do that. Like I know I could just, like that's almost easier.
Right.
Right? And I'm not discrediting monks. Like I sound like, I'm sure it comes with challenges. But like I oftentimes, like I just want to go out into the woods and just be isolated and be in nature and in this beautiful thing. And so, yeah, I guess that's where it's like, how can I keep that in the human experience? And I do, what was it? Into the Wild, right? Christopher McCandless at the end says happiness is only real when shared. And so I'm not discrediting, and I don't agree with it with money. I think community, I think relationships are something that can really just magnify what already exists in the terms of like joy and happiness.
I think you're right, but I think if you have that community and then you add $10 million to it,
you're not gonna get me on this one.
You're gonna have a much better community. Like it's right, like it's a community. Like that's why we, right? Like it's how we've advanced as humans, right? Like we live in these homes.
Money's made up. It's not even real.
Yes. So okay, so like if there was a system of even bartering, right? Because essentially that's all it is now. It's like right, like if you replace, because money doesn't even have a value anymore. It's not tied to gold or anything like it used to be, right? So if it was, right, really, like you could just look at it as, I give you services of whatever it is I do, and you provide services of whatever it is you do, and then we share our resources, right? But then we have this dollar that we use as like a marker to share those resources. I don't know. I think that money is absolutely a magnifier, and like it's just gonna, right? Like if you have a strong community and you start making more money, I think that it's gonna only help. But I think that it works, right? Like money, people say money's the
not only help, but if you are already in that foundation for it to help, because it won't only help.
Right. But right. And this is where I was going. Like people say money is the root of all evil. Well, no, it's not. If you are evil, then money is going to make you more evil.
Yeah.
right? Money doesn't care what you are, right? It's not like, oh, here's $10 million. Now you're going to be a good person.
Mm-hmm.
No, you're still going to be a piece of shit.
Yeah.
I had another thought. What were you talking about?
I guess the difference.
I feel like,
go ahead.
I feel like the monk thing. Like, I feel like if a monk was sitting here with us, they'd like have some crazy shit that like they'd be like, "What is happiness? What is this happiness that you've made up?" Right? Like,
well, it's all temporary too.
Right.
So we're talking about this happy and happier, but ultimately, all of it is impermanent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that comes back to the same thing as money. Like, the suffering comes from the attachment, whether it's money, whether it's happiness.
Right.
Because when we're attached, we're controlled by it, and it's all impermanent.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're disconnected to like reality.
Yeah.
And so I think what I really emphasize, because a lot of times when I describe this like idea of not being attached, right? Like non-attachment is not apathy.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's what happens in non-attachment is non-attachment magnifies life, the joy of life, because when you are with the joy, you have gratitude and you're able to appreciate it more because it's impermanent. And when you don't have the joy, your non-attachment allows you to realize that the sadness or whatever you're experiencing is also going to end, right? And so there's a level of hope that comes with it. And so non-attachment in all things is not to be disconnected, but you're actually fully connected because you're in the reality of your experience versus trying to control it or make it mean something or be a certain way or avoid, like attached to pleasure so you avoid pain.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So I'm going to say non-attachment is the magnifier of happiness. Happy.
It's hilarious. we need to get a guest monk on our show.
Oh yeah. I just listened to a few episodes of a monk from the Plum Village, which was Thich Nhat Hanh's
hometown.
Yeah.
Village.
It's this like one of the monks there and this British guy. I've only listened to a couple episodes, but it is interesting. British guy, I think. Oh, yeah. I think he has that British accent.
Yeah, I'm sure their perspective on life would be interesting to hear about.
Yeah.
And all the things that we are attached to.
Yeah. Human nature. I mean, and that's just, it's our nature, and it's just being aware of it is where your freedom is.
Right. Being mindful. So that leads, so then why do we do crazy shit? Like, why do we like this, I'm gonna try to spin it and maybe connect it to what we thought we were going to talk about this episode.
Well, this is what we're talking about. We don't have to talk about anything. Why are you so attached to what we were going to talk about? Why are you resisting what is? A simple question, fame or money, led us to our topic, and it was just meant to be this way. Just
so
let go. I don't even remember what our topic was going to
be. Well, so I think it relates. I do. So like, and you mentioned like suffering. Like suffering is the attachment to these things. Right. And for me, this is for the year 2022. I've created this year. My theme is the year of suffering. Okay. The year of suffering and happiness. Actually.
Oh, okay. I didn't know the suffering part. I knew the happiness.
Yeah. So it's the year of suffering and happiness. And the point is to find the happiness in the suffering.
Okay.
Right. Because I don't know if I agree that the suffering is attached is a product of attachment. Maybe it is. But I think that in suffering, we can find happiness.
Mm-hmm.
And so this year, right, like my goal is to seek out opportunities to suffer,
Mm-hmm.
but find the happiness in those moments. So on March 4th, I think you know what this is. I don't know if all of our listeners know, but David Goggins started this challenge 2 or 3 years ago, and it's the 4x4x48.
Did he really originate it? Because I
Uh-huh.
know. Okay, I wasn't sure because it's a way that ultra runners train for 100 milers to run tired.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so that's why I was like, I don't know if he.
So maybe it was just because he is an ultra runner. So maybe it's just a tactic he used that
Okay.
the running community used, and then he just put it out
Yeah.
as a challenge, right?
Yeah.
Maybe just no one else used it as a challenge. So maybe he didn't create it,
Yeah.
but maybe he created the challenge for the layman, right?
Yeah.
The non-ultra runner.
Yeah.
And so the point of it, for those that don't know what it is, it's you run 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And you have 4 hours to run 4 miles. Right? It doesn't matter if you want to run 1 mile per hour and get it done in 4 hours, then you're just going to run for the entire 48 hours. Or you can run, a 10-minute mile, right? 48 for 4 miles, which is 40 minutes. And now you have 3 hours and 20 minutes to rest or recover or do whatever. And then anywhere in between, right? Like you want to run a 4 mile and 6-minute miles. Fuck, everyone knows how good at math I am. And this is funny. This leads to more of Alan math. So anyway, so he put out this challenge, and I was like, and if you're not a runner, right, like you can choose to do additional exercise, like some other exercise for this time, right? If you don't want to run. So like if you want to get on the elliptical and do the elliptical for the equivalent time of 4 miles or whatever.
Yeah.
You can do it. And so I was like, oh, I think I want to do it, right? It's the year of suffering. Like what a perfect opportunity to suffer is, sleep deprivation over a 48-hour period with intense exercise. And I'm doing, right, I got my Go rucksack plate, the 45-pound plate I've been walking with every day. And I walk generally 2 to 3 miles a day with it. And so I reached out to a friend and I was like, and he's familiar with David Goggins, and I was like, let's do the 4x4x48. And I had to convince him, but he's in now. And so we're going to do it. And I don't know if he figured out the true math, because this is where Alan math comes in. I totally got it wrong. I was like doing the math in my head, and I got it wrong. I got it wrong by half. So it's 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours. And when I did the math, somehow I got to 24 miles. But it's not 24 miles. It's 48 miles. And so when I was telling my friend on, I was like, come on, 24 miles. So I don't know if he still thinks it's 24 miles.
No.
And like, you're going to do 24 miles in the first 24 hours.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, surprise. But he's a smart guy, so he probably figured it out already.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
you're doing that in less than a month. And how much
March 4th.
Have you been how much do you run currently?
Well, so I'm not running it.
No, yeah, but you're taking
I don't run.
Yeah, you're so you're walking with your weight?
With my weight. And so so I'm gonna walk with my 45 pounds for 4 miles every 4 hours. And my thought is, so when I'm in the backcountry, I hike, like when I'm in the mountains, my average is about 2 miles an hour. Right. So that's uphill, downhill, right? Like everything accounted for. Average is about 2 miles an hour. And that's with anywhere from 40 to 70 pounds on my back. So I'm like, oh, okay, that's, when I did the math, I know I did this math right. Um, but when I did the math, I was like, okay, so if I walk at 2 miles an hour,
Yeah.
um, it'll
Take you
be
2 hours
2 hours to do 4 miles.
Mm-hmm.
So I have 2 hours to rest.
Yeah.
And that's my goal is I think because I walk currently faster, so on flat land. So 2 miles an
Yeah.
hour is when I'm in the backcountry, when I'm in the mountains, when I'm at altitude.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna be doing this in Phoenix with my buddy.
Okay.
So I'm gonna be at a way more advantageous position because I'm gonna
Yeah.
be at 1,100 feet versus the 6,000 feet ish
Yeah.
that I'm at currently. So I have a bunch of, right, and then it's going to be flat land, right? We're not going to be going up a mountain. And
But be
so
careful if you're going on cement the whole time.
I'm going to blacktop. So
Okay.
I'll walk on blacktop, not cement,
Okay.
which makes a difference, right? It's not
Yeah.
necessarily a huge difference, but it makes a difference. So yeah, so that's my thought. And then I have a friend who did the 4x4x48 last year,
Mm-hmm.
and he was like, "You're stupid." He's like, "But good luck, and I'll support you."
Yeah.
But he was like, "Man, I just wanted to get it done and over with because like I'm talking about like slowing down,
Yeah.
right? Like 2 miles an hour. I walk 2 miles, 3 miles in about 45 minutes with my pack on currently.
Yeah.
So I'd have to slow it down substantially
Mm-hmm.
to get to 2 miles per hour on flat land at
Yeah.
1,100 feet of elevation. And my thought is just, right, like the problem with this, right, there's two main problems that I see is lactic acid buildup, right, which is what makes you sore, right,
Mm-hmm.
what makes you want to stop, and then the mental side of things, right, which is the shit. I haven't gotten any sleep in the last 24, 48 hours because I'm
Mm-hmm.
up every 2 hours to go walk 4 miles. So my goal is like I'll deal with the mental side, but as far as the lactic acid side is just don't work as hard, right? Where my buddy is like, no, I wanted to finish that 4 miles as quick as possible.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and my thought is if you do it fast as possible, your lactic acid buildup is faster.
Mm.
Whereas my thought is go slow, build up no lactic acid or minimal lactic acid.
Was your friend who did it, did he run it?
He ran it.
And was
And
he
he
a
wasn't a
runner
run.
before?
No, he was not a runner
Okay.
before.
And he didn't get injured?
He thought he was going to get injured and he didn't.
Nice.
And surprisingly.
Yeah.
But I told him, I was like, that's like, but he's in shape, right? Like, so that's the other thing. He had a base, right? Not a running base, but he has a good base of fitness. Yeah. But it just shows you like that's the point of this year of suffering is we're resilient. We are way more resilient than we give ourselves credit for. And that's why I'm like, yeah, like, and that's why has to be happiness in suffering because yeah, it's going to suck. 4 miles, right? The first 4 miles, they're going to be easy. The second 4 miles, right? Might sting a little bit because it's going to be 2:00 in the morning when you're doing it because it starts at 8 p.m. So it goes to midnight is the second 4 miles.
Yeah.
And then 4 is the next. So you're constantly, I think it just gets worse and worse as time goes on. Mm-hmm. At least the mental side of it. And my thought is like, where's the happiness in that? Where's the, I already know my body's resilient. Mm-hmm. And this is just another thing to, oh yeah, my body's resilient. I can do anything.
Yeah.
So I related it back to everything that we talked about because it's like, why, right? Like you said, suffering is in the attachment to things. So how is, like, what happens if you're seeking out suffering?
Well, right. So suffering is attachment lies in our attachment and avoidance. So it would, I guess, how it relates to when you seek it out
because you seek it out too. Like you go on a
Yeah, but
60-mile
I'm
run.
seeking out, I actually am like, it's funny you're talking about adding more suffering. I'm actually choosing to remove more self-seeking suffering from my life. And I can go into that in a moment.
Mm-hmm.
But uh well, I think you're seeking suffering with the knowledge that it's temporary,
Mm-hmm.
right? So is it,
But all things are temporary,
yeah,
and that's the
exactly.
point. That's the
Yeah.
point. Is
Yeah.
that I know that it's gonna suck while I'm doing it, but it's gonna end
Yeah.
too.
So you're suffering, and like it depends how you define suffering then, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your suffering's probably far less than someone who thinks this is going to be forever,
Mm-hmm.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, but then I think one of the points of me wanting to do this is to build resilience to suffering,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because when you put yourself through voluntary suffering,
Mm-hmm.
right, it's just like, right, when we have yoga, when I tell my students yoga happens on the mat or off the
Yeah.
mat, right? We come to our mats to practice yoga.
Mm-hmm.
We're right, we do yoga occasionally on our mat, but yoga happens out in the real world when
Mm-hmm.
I always remember this story. I have a friend or yoga student slash friend who's a trail runner, and she tripped and fell and almost landed face first in a pile of horse shit.
Yeah, I remember you told that story.
Right? Yeah,
Yeah.
and and she could have been all butthurt and scraped knees, but instead she smiled, and she
Yeah.
got that from my class.
Yeah.
Right, and it was from the preparation. Like, yeah, you know what? I almost just landed in horse shit. That
Mm-hmm.
that would have sucked, but here we are, and I'm gonna
Yeah.
smile. So, in putting yourself in voluntary suffering, when life brings death to your front door,
Mm-hmm.
right? When life brings illness to your front door, right? Because it's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
When life brings, all these hard things that life brings, I think the voluntary suffering helps prepare you for the involuntary suffering.
Mm-hmm.
So you're like, oh, yeah, no, I got this.
Yeah.
I walked 48 miles, no problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and that comes back to non-attachment.
Mm-hmm.
So many people are actually attached to their suffering, and
Mm.
they,
I see
right?
that. I got it now.
Do you like see that part?
Yeah,
Is so like
yeah.
it's like chicken and the egg maybe a little bit. I
No, I
think
got.
the non-attachment helps with less suffer. The less attached you are, the less you suffer, because even the suffering in itself is impermanent. But we
Mm,
can make that suffering, when we're attached to the suffering, we make it, we we are making it permanent. We're
yeah,
living out our suffering.
yeah. And when you aren't prepared and practiced in suffering,
Mm-hmm.
you're so attached and you don't let go of it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I think we're trying to get at is when you voluntarily sign up for it and it's going to end, right? You're saying I'm not going to be attached to this.
You realize the impermanence. And
You're
so
right.
when the suffering, unexpected suffering comes, you're able to realize the impermanence.
Yes. Yeah.
And then you're probably more potentially able to find the happiness in the involuntary suffering that happens in
Mm-hmm.
life.
Because you're not focused on the permanence or the attachment of it.
Mm-hmm. And
Now
it's
you're
not who
looking.
you are, it's not forever, it's
Right. And
just
so
something
now,
that's happening.
right. And so now it's an event, a moment in time.
Mm-hmm.
And so now you could say, great. So now where's the happiness in this moment of time?
Mm-hmm.
Like I get to spend all this time with my friend,
Yeah.
right? I get to be outside for essentially 24 hours,
Mm-hmm.
right? If I'm going to be outside for 2 hours at a time,
Yeah.
right? Walking, I get to be outside in the fresh air.
Mm-hmm.
I get to feel, right? In the middle of the night, I get to feel the cold air on my skin.
Yeah.
In the middle of the day, I get to feel that hot sun on my skin.
Yeah.
Right?
And it's like also when you accept the suffer, like what happens when the other part of attachment, right, is avoidance.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the other part that happens, is when suffering happens and we do everything to avoid it, we can't actually find the happiness in it either. And so that acceptance of what is gives you the space, right, to
the suffering loses its power
mm-hmm.
when you accept it, right? Because when we fight it and we avoid it, and right, you're constantly trying to push it away, but it's always there, and you're gonna suffer. Whereas if you're just like, yeah, I want it, like you take the power away from it, because you're essentially saying like, yeah, come on, I know I'm gonna suffer, and then it's like, oh, okay, what else is there in the suffering? Yeah, I like that.
Because you realize it's not you.
Yeah.
There was something else and I forgot it, but that's okay. I think we picked that one apart pretty solid.
So I'll have to talk about and share my experience once we do it.
That's exciting. Yeah, that's cool. I've thought about doing it for training, but never have. So maybe I will this year.
March 4th.
Nope. I'm just gonna be honest.
I love it. Nope, definitely not.
I'm cool.
I love it. I love it. Shall we end?
Yeah.
How do you wanna breathe after at the wrap us up?
The wrap episode?
Wrap us
up.
Wrap us up at the end with the breath?
Sure, yeah.
All right. So journal prompt, get out your journals. Gosh, what did we talk about? We talked about money, power, and fame. Which one do you want? Money, power, and fame. What do you want? Write it down. Be honest with yourself. And then dive deeper into it. Right? What is, right, if you, whatever you chose, right, what it gets you. And, are you just looking for recognition and fame, and you want to be a star, and you want people to notice you and scream your name, and then think about all the things that come with that. And same with money, right? Right, if you have all this money, are you one of those people that are saying, oh, if I had this money, I would go do this? Then look at that thing that you would do and see if you're doing it now. And if you're not doing it now, figure out how to do it now, because you don't need money to do it now. Right? Unless it's like, oh, I would travel the world and stay in all these 5-star hotels, but there's a way that you could probably figure out how to do it. That's don't
limit yourself.
Right. You think you need the money to do that. And I'll give an example. There's this guy, I forget his last name, first name Brian, but he goes by the Points Guy. And he created a lifestyle where he, using credit card points to travel and fly and stay in, like fly in these airplanes that have full suites for their first class options. And he uses points, but what he's done now is he's created a life where he's now so important in the travel and credit card space that companies like American Express and Capital One and all these give their products to him to test out and review, or these airlines like fly him in, their highest level of service and cabins, on their planes, so that he will review them. Right. And he created this life of where he's traveling and doing all the crazy shit. And it wasn't because he had millions of dollars. So I heard something recently that the problem is the solution. And I'm not going to get too into that, but think about that, right? The problem is, there's a solution that lies in the problem. Figure out what that is and write about that. And how can you do the thing you want to do? If it's help homeless people, feeding families. Look at Tony Robbins. Right? Tony Robbins set out to do all these goals to feed millions of families. And he did it by starting to want to feed one.
Yeah.
And then it expanded. So how can you create this life that you want without money, power, or fame?
One thing I made me think of that you can write about, I'll give a little backstory. I did a financial freedom seminar years ago, and he said, write down as many ways that you could save $20 a day, and then make $20 an extra $20 a day, save an extra $20 a day, and just no matter how absurd the ideas seem, like just write. So think about, like, if there is something you haven't been taking action on because you think you need money, fame, or power to do, just write because we get stuck in our limited ideas of how it needs to happen, right? That's why we're stuck on, I need money to be able to do this. Right. So just write as many, like, no matter how far off and absurd they sound, as many ideas as you can of, like, another way you could get to do that without money, power, or fame.
Right. I love that. Yeah, because a lot of these people who have money, power, and fame did the thing before they got money, power, and fame. Mm-hmm. That's the difference, is they didn't have the money. They didn't have the fame, right? You have to do I've said this on past episodes, you have to do the thing to get the thing, right? Like, you have to be out there in the woods, tracking the elk, understanding the elk, learning about the elk in order to get the elk.
Yeah.
And
how do you become a writer?
By writing.
By writing.
Yeah. You don't just, I'm a New York Times bestseller.
You don't get a book deal. You write.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And we want the shortcut, right? And social media has made it worse, right? Where we just see the end result. And we don't see the suffering in trying to get to that result. So wonderful. It's lovely chatting with you, Brie. I'll turn it over to you for our breath work.
Awesome. So wherever you're at, if you can close your eyes just to bring awareness into the body. But if you're doing something that needs your eyes open, that's fine too. Still bring awareness into the body. And then notice your natural flow of breath. Notice if it's shallow or deep, fast or slow. And expand awareness into your entire body. And observe just the general feeling of your breath and body right now. And notice the commentary or the story around it. Notice the preference. Oh, I'm glad I feel this way, or I wish my heart would slow down. And then begin to slow down your exhale. And with every progressive exhale, begin to release the commentary. And with your inhale, come back to just noticing the sensations and feelings as they are. Inhale to observe, and exhale to release judgment. Inhale to feel, and exhale to release the story. One more time, breathing in and slowing down to let go. And you can continue through this cycle for as long as you'd like, observing and releasing, and just being with what is, just as it is. And if your eyes are closed, you can flutter them open. And that's a wrap-sode.
Thanks, Bray. I appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you.
Good chatting.
Yeah. Until next time.